Tony Blair's former Director of Communications, will publish his 5th volume, this one beginning with his departure from Downing Street. He joins me now. Very good to see you, Alastair. I mentioned the number of memoirs.
It's a lot around.
But they're all very recent. You know, we're all talking about Brexit. There's 3 or 4 around at the moment. I mean, yours from 2003 to 5 seem an awful long time ago now.
Well, I was actually looking through the index yesterday. Jeremy Corbyn's not in it at all. Theresa May's in it once, and it's got nothing. It's actually about something she says about David Miliband. If I'd have said in the back then, by the time they're published, we'll be coming out of the European Union. Corbyn will be Labour leader. David Cameron will have been and gone.
I suppose Cameron's not really in it much, though, is he? Because
no,
just
not
leads
really.
up to the general election
It goes
that
up to Michael Howard's general election. Yeah, so Cameron's in a little bit. But I think you're and also it starts with the Hutton inquiry, so Iraq's still very much a big part of it, and goes up to the election. Tony Gordon is like a big thing going on the whole time. So it does feel like quite a long time ago.
But there's a lot of you in there. I mean, it's very personal as well, as they all are, but, about your depression and about then things have changed. You've officially left Tony Blair's side, but you're like a moth to the flame. You can't seem to get away.
Day one, this is the interesting thing about keeping a diary, when you go back and transcribe it. So I left, as you remember, in quite a, kerfuffle going on during the Hutton inquiry. Day one, Tony actually not only asked me to go and see him, he asked me to go to Iraq as like his man in Iraq. And I didn't even tell Fiona about that one because that was like...
Your wife.
No chance whatsoever. But then thereafter, it's true, I was getting... And there's a tension in there the whole time. I'm trying to start a new life, I'm trying to get out, but I'm getting brought back in the whole time. And I still have that in a sense. There's still a part of me that wants to kind of, scream at politics and what have you. But you've just got to, I think I've got to accept that was my time and things have moved on.
And did you get paid for it? You got to eat.
No, listen, I wasn't sure. But I did get paid during the election campaign. I went back and Alan Milburn actually said, listen, if you're going to do a proper role, we should pay you. But no, generally I didn't, no.
Everyone's drawing parallels now with Brexit, and I mentioned all the memoirs coming out about that at the moment. But, reading through those diaries, the straws and more are in the wind there. And do you have a view on this central charge, and it was used during the referendum campaign by the Leave side, that Labour of those years made a deliberate attempt to open up the UK to mass migration, to rub the right's nose in diversity?
No, it wasn't about rubbing the right's nose in it at all. But I do think that there was always this tension between knowing that the economy and public services needed immigration, and also Tony did really believe in the kind of the European vision, if you like. And I think what comes through in the diaries is a sense that we're spotting a problem, but we're really struggling with solution.
But he was ringing you up. Tony Blair was ringing you up, wasn't he? He was panicking going into that election campaign of 2005. That was one of the key planks of the Conservative campaign. And it was asylum seekers and refugees then.
And they were, and it was asylum seekers and refugees, and the way that they were making that about public services and the pressure on public services and the way the country was changing. And I think it's possible to make the argument that because we won in 2001 and 2005, where the Tories really were hitting us hard on immigration, that maybe we got a little bit complacent. Because we did win. We won again, even though Michael Howard really did make that a big part of his campaign. So I think you're right that there are all sorts of seeds in there for what I see now. I mean, Tony, he definitely believed that he could persuade the public genuinely and finally to accept Britain's place in the heart of Europe. Now, it's obvious from what's happening today that was not achieved. Likewise, I think in relation to immigration, I think he felt, and I felt, that we could persuade people that, yes, there's a downside to this, but the upside is bigger. And again, if you look at what's happened in recent years, it suggests that has failed as well. So I think Tony was a great Prime Minister. I think New Labour was a great political force, and we did a lot of good things. But I think you can see the seeds.
But there's one crucial structural decision taken there, and whether it was right or wrong, that's 2004, the accession of the so-called Eastern Eight. And transitional controls were offered to the UK 7 years before they can come in there. And your own assessment said, well, the Germans are taking those transitional controls.
Yeah.
So many, obviously the biggest labour market in the European Union, and right next door to Poland, of course. But many of those Polish people will therefore come to the UK, and once they've settled, then their friends, relatives, brothers, sisters, then they'll come over here. Why weren't those transitional controls taken?
I think because of a belief that actually it was going to benefit the economy. And I think that, Look, I can see why, looking back, people think we didn't have the eye on the ball. But this is the, I think, important thing about diaries is there's no kind of hindsight in there. It's really about the decisions that are being made then. And I do think that there was a sense that the country was moving, the country was changing. It was going in a direction that we thought would actually be able to deal with this. And you look at where we are today, and you can have an argument about that for sure.
Well, the argument, I mean, I want to throw to you looking at it today. I've just come back. I'm sure you were keeping a close eye on it on the Labour Party conference in Liverpool. Jeremy Corbyn's speech there, basically saying, well, immigration is not a problem. Has Labour got it? We will put in money into communities affected, but it's not a problem. You've got to understand this. A lot of Labour voters don't believe that.
I mean, I actually think in terms of the principle underlying his approach on immigration is, if you like, the right one that we should have been arguing for a very, very long time. I think coming as it does in this current political context, I think it's dangerous politically for him to do that. But, that's the other thing that's really interesting about, to look back then to 2003, 2005, the period of the diaries, and now Jeremy Corbyn as leader. Again, I think a big part of the narrative is this kind of Tony Gordon thing going on so big and so bad, if you like, that we just didn't develop the talent. And when it came to it, first Ed, then Jeremy.
We're out of time. Alastair, good to see you. Thank you very much
indeed,
Alastair
Campbell.
More
later, no doubt.